Well, the world has sure gone nutty, buddy, even downright cruddy, buddy. Wish I missed the past, buddy, but there's still Buddycast. No, don't be nutty, go meet everybody here on Buddycast.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founder and host of Buddycast, Nick Sorensen.
Oh, we're live. Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of everybody's favorite cat show, Buddycast. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. I was just reading this phenomenal poetry book, a collection of wonderful poems here by an Emily Rossi, and oh, wouldn't you know it, we have Emily on the show today. How you doing, Emily?
I'm good, Nick. It's so exciting to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for stopping by, taking time out of your schedule today, and being a buddy on Buddycast.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe you invited me. I'm very excited.
Of course. I love having local authors on the show. They're my favorite.
It is nice. I feel like Erie has a really great, creative, local community, and they're very supportive, and it's a beautiful community. So,
Now, Emily, you know I got to start off the show by asking, how'd you get into poetry?
yeah, it's funny because I was very anti-poetry myself at one point in life. The big dream has always been to write a novel, to write like a long form thing and fiction and something like that. But when I took creative writing in college at Mercyhurst, you have to take all of these different writing classes, and the one was poetry and short stories and stuff, and I was terrified. Because poetry is such a personal thing. It's so emotionally charged. I was like, I have to write poetry for the first time and then read all of this to these people in school that I don't know. But I ended up loving it. And I still remember one of the short stories that's in this book, actually, I wrote in one of those classes, and we like posted them anonymously on like a discussion board. And so when we came into class, like the teacher opened up the class and he was like, whoever, like, the stories were so good this week, whoever wrote hydrangeas was so good. And I was like in my seat and I was like, that was mine. Like, I remember that moment so specifically as like, wow, like not only can I do it, but people are actually having an emotional response to it. And I think from there, I just like opened up this whole different form of writing for myself that was really healing for me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Now, on average, how long does you think, like, if you ever came up with a new poem, like, let's say you started one today, how long does it usually take you? Like, how much thought, effort, all that do you put into?
Honestly, I feel like for poetry, it's like instant. Like if I'm writing something, it's because it's like a single thought that's like reading like a teleprompter, and I'm like, okay, let me just like write it down on whatever scrap of paper I have. And I'll like go back and read it, and if it like grammatically is weird or there's something that feels like a better way to express it, I'll change it. But for poetry, I find that it just kind of happens because it's sort of like the purest form of writing, I feel, because you go with what you feel. It doesn't always make sense. It doesn't always sound quite right, but it feels right. So poetry is like so quick for me because I don't want to like taint the original heart of it, the original feeling of it, because I think that's what makes it impactful.
Wonderful. Now, you have over 68 pages worth of poems right here in this book alone. How long did it take you to create this book?
Yeah, that's I feel like two separate answers, because all of the poems in it were written over probably my college career, so like over 4 years. I wasn't like actively putting them together or anything like that. So it was just sort of like I said, I'd like be at the salon and I'd have this thought and I'd grab their notepad and I just write it down, and I started like collecting all that, and then at the end of the college career, I was like, why don't I just put it all together and just see if I could make this like an actual book. But then the actual like publishing process took about 6 or 7 months. I started in like March of 2021, and then I had like a big book reveal party in September of 2021, which I honestly thought was really fast. Like I imagined the whole publishing process to be like incredibly long, but I mean, granted, this is a very short work compared to like a novel or something. Um, so yeah, I guess that made sense for that, but it didn't take as long as I thought it would.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Now, someone just sent us a little heart emoji up here. I believe that's Miss Diana Noe, which brings up my next
Aw,
question. You and I have some mutual buddies. We have Miss
you too.
Diana, we have Miss Kayla, and we have Mama Buddy. If I call
I
her
know, Beth.
if I call her Miss Lisa on the show, she's not going to let me hear the end of it. So,
Honestly, I get that. She wants to people to know that, you're part of her family, and I understand that.
hmm so
We do.
tell us about your work family. Tell us about.
Yeah. Yeah, so I work at Noe Noonan School of Cosmetology, which is a phenomenal workplace full of really amazing women. We were kind of chatting pre-show about our mutual buddies, but I was saying to Nick that I've never been in a workplace like that before. I've never been in an atmosphere that's so intent on cultivating optimism and empowerment and support and just like honestly women supporting women and not in like a trendy, I'm going to say women supporting women because it sounds nice, but like genuinely we're all there for each other and we support each other. And uh, Diana and Kayla, my bosses, are like two of the most genuine women I've ever met in my life. So I have a lot of incredible buddies. I'm very honored to be part of that team. Yeah. And of
Truly.
course, your mom, of course, Lisa, my little crime partner in crime buddy. We're always doing projects together and going to her for things because she's got a wealth of experience. So
hmm And I
yeah.
truly can't thank Noe Noonan enough for everything they're doing for my mom personally. They gave her a career that she absolutely loves, and I can tell
Yeah.
it's the same with you. It's a career that
Yeah.
you wake up in the morning and go,
Yeah.
I get to go to work today rather than
Yeah.
another day at the office. Let's go.
Yeah. Which is life changing. I mean,
hmm
so many people can't say that. So I don't take that for granted. I'm very grateful that the Lord placed me there.
hmm
Yeah.
So, going back to the book, with everything, once everything was published, once everything was said and done, how did it feel?
Oh my gosh, it was so surreal. It was so surreal. I remember getting me and my sister were living in an apartment at the time and it's just got this big box and of course I was like, I know what that is. Like that has to be the books. And we published through Amazon. Woven Books Publishing helps me publish and we got the ISBN and stuff from Amazon. So you just order, a big order from Amazon and it came in and I was like, this is so heavy. But it was just, I mean, to see your name like written on something, to see a polished version of you putting all this together, it just was like, it was so surreal. It was so cool. And my sister was there and she filmed a little cute like reaction video of like, she was like, oh, open it. She's got like her phone in front of me and she was like, I want to see what your reaction is. And I was like, I'm probably going to cry, but um, yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it just felt like the perfect cherry on top of a really surreal year.
That is awesome. So tell us about the publication process, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, Woven Books was the publishing company that I used. Their local women run. Lori Clapper is the one of the hosts of WCTL Radio. So
hmm
I I had heard of her and kind of met her through working at the Women's Care Center of Erie, which is an amazing local nonprofit organization, by the way. But I worked for them in marketing, and so I was on their show before, and I found out that she had a publishing company, and I was like, it was just one of those things where God really orchestrated the timing because I was starting to think about maybe I should publish something, and then all of a sudden I find out that Lori Clapper has a publishing company and my one close friend had published her book through Lori. And so I kind of jumped on that and worked with her on editing and then found a really good partner in Donna Stella, who was working with her at the time too, doing like the design stuff and formatting and all of the tedious stuff that goes into editing poetry. But it was fun. Like it was honestly really fun. I was expecting it to be like stressful and long and annoying, because I just am very specific about what things should look and sound like. But they were amazing and they were so gracious with the things that I wanted. And it was fun to put work into and polish this thing that I loved putting together in the first place. So
Mhm.
I had a blast doing it.
The
Yeah.
entire the entire time you were thinking, like you were describing, like the stressful, like your expectations of like the stressful part and everything. All I could think of was my buddy Snoopy here, like all the comics that
Oh.
he's been through, like
Yeah.
all that stuff. But you're right, it does sound fun. I didn't know our mutual buddy Lori Clapper, number one, is a mutual
Yeah.
friend. He's been on the show,
hmm
and I
Yeah,
didn't know she had
Lori's
a
amazing.
publishing company. Why didn't she tell me that?
Yeah, Woven Books. Yeah. So that's I feel like I should give them a little, it's right in the opening here. Like let's show that off. Oh, is that right? Woven Books. There it is. Woven Books. Look at that. Little matching. Matchy
Mhm.
matchy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I kind of stunted myself in writing process at first because I put so much pressure on it to be like the right time, the right publishing company, the right people, the right, like it felt like I had this one shot to like achieve my dream or fail miserably. And I was like, oh, Kayla. Um, and so I feel like I kind of stunted myself in that way too, because I was like, I'm gonna wait until I feel like it's exactly the right time. And when I met them, they were just so like, the time is now because you're feeling that, and um, the biggest thing I learned from doing this book was really, I feel like, selfishly for myself, of like, if I believe in what I'm doing and I feel like I have a story to tell, then I just need to do it and trust that God's going to work out the rest of it and use it for something. And it doesn't matter, how I publish it, where I publish it, or even honestly what it looks like, because at the end of the day, like, this gift is from him and he's going to make everything unfold as it should in the end. And so it's kind of like a really big trust building thing. But at the end of the day, I still got blessed to be able to share something that means something to me. So I just feel like the whole publishing process, the people that I was connected with, made all the difference. But it was just, it was like one of those things where you're like, I just got to do it. Like, why am I waiting? Like, just do it. So I'm so grateful for how all of that sort of was woven together for me. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's all his timing. It's all on him.
Yeah.
I still credit him today for giving me everything with Buddycast. He just put this
hmm
idea in my head saying, why don't you do a show that talks to people about what makes you unique, what makes them unique, what
Yeah.
makes them everything? And look how it's grown.
Yeah. I mean, it's game changing when you're like, I have this gift, but I'm going to entrust him to use it for me. Otherwise, you
Mhm.
like get in your own way of like, oh, well, how should I do it? When should I, And it's like, I have it, so he's going to use it. So I just need to like take my hands off the steering wheel and let him drive it. But it's
Mhm.
amazing to see. I mean, and for you too, I'm sure the people you've met, like, you probably feel blessed by that, but you're also blessing them.
100%.
Like, you're also blessing them by giving them a platform to speak on and making them feel special and seen, and sharing their stories too while you're sharing your story. And I just think that's
I
like such a beautiful thing.
I honestly see this show as that what you just said, that blessing. Like the
Yeah.
best way I can describe it, two of my groomsmen came from this show.
Oh, no way. I didn't know
Yep,
that. That's so cool.
yep. Two of my groomsmen came from this show, and they're just as great as friends as some of my lifelong best friends. They are the
Yeah.
type of people, if I called up today and say, I need a favor, I need something. No questions asked. What do
Yeah.
we need to do?
That's a
So
buddy.
exactly. So I know this next question. I know it's like asking who your favorite child is. And by the way, if Lisa's watching, she can attach. She can gladly
Yeah.
answer that question. But like, what this book? What are some of your favorite poems? Like, what poems did you have the most fun writing, or did you like stand out to you the most when you open
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I think that oh my, yeah, that is very hard. That's very hard. I think that two of my favorites are the homesickness poems. So there's a homesickness one and there's a homesickness too. I wrote those when I was also at Mercier's. A lot happened at Mercier's. Shout out to MU for being an amazing place for me. But I got to study abroad with them because they have a sister school in Ireland, and so I was there for 9 weeks. And I was there with like one of my English professors too, so I had an English class there. And it was very much like right when I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like keep letting this poetry come out of me. And I remember on one of our bus trips, you're going between tours, but Ireland's like a lot of land, so they're long trips. And I was looking out, and you can see like all this greenery and all these hills. And honestly, some of it reminded me of where my parents live, which is very like country, rolling fields. And I was like hit with such homesickness of like, this is amazing, but I'm such a homebody. I love, like, I have a great relationship with my parents and my family, which I'm sure like you can relate to. Like, I was like, man, like I miss them. And so like the two homesickness poems kind of like honestly came out right in that moment. Like it was so easy for me to do that. Homesickness one is about my Nana, which obviously the first line is Jesus is in my Nana's hands. But my Nana is such an amazing woman. I mean, she's got kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and she had 7 kids, and she's just such a caretaker. And honestly, none of us would be here today if it weren't for her. And she's just got a beautiful story. And that one kind of just like, I was like, the least I can do is memorialize this wonderful woman in a poem. And then the second one is about my dad, who's also just an amazing human. And I always credit him for how well I can understand like my heavenly father, because I had such a good earthly father. And so homesickness too was like sort of a reflection of like my earthly father, but also how that parallels with like my heavenly father. So I feel like the homesickness poems are very like near and dear to my heart, because I'm like, they came from such a real feeling that I can still like bring up today, because obviously like I'm still close with them and so grateful for everything that they've done for us and our family. But yeah, I like those ones a lot. Those two are two of my favorites.
Nice. Before we
Yeah.
go any further, we have a question from the audience.
No way.
What is your
your
ideal
idea?
environment to write that makes you feel inspired?
That's a great question. I like writing in an active space, but like not too much of an active space. Like I love, and I know you're buddies with them too, but I'm obsessed with Warner Books. If you haven't been to Warner Books, go to Warner Books. If you love coffee, if you love books, if you just love walking around somewhere, go there. They're great people. But they have like a really great writing space, and they have coffee, which is key for me. Caffeine is key. I need it in the morning. I need it in an IV, in a vat some days. It's my lifeblood. So I like going to coffee shops, especially local ones, but Warner Books just has that perfect feel because it also has books. And I just feel like there's something about being in that space where like there's all these stories that are already there. There's stories happening around you because people are coming in and out. And it just sort of gets me feeling all creative. So I love being in like a bookstore or a coffee store or something, which is super basic. I'm sure a lot of writers would say that, but there's just something about it, being in that kind of space. So yeah.
And speaking of Warner Books, you have a major book signing coming up, don't you?
I do. I do. Oh my gosh, they're so nice to let me do that. On this Sunday actually, so 2 days from now at between noon and 2, I'll be sitting there with some copies of my books, and I know they have some copies of my books too, so I'll just be hanging out there. I'm really excited to meet new people and get to possibly share, this with more people too. It's crazy to have this like a new wave happening with the book because it came out in 2021, which as I was thinking about coming on here and talking about it, I was like, wow, that's actually so long ago. I can't believe it's already been that long since it's been out. So to have like this new wave of interest in it is really special and really cool and really humbling to have people still, supporting it and getting excited about it. But yeah, Kyle was like, you should come in for a book signing. And I was like, really? I can do that? So it's really cool. So I'll be there Sunday. between noon and 2. I'd love to meet new people. And even if you don't, come for the book signing, come for Warner Books because they're amazing and support local always. And they're just great people. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's my favorite bookstore in town. It's truly
Yes.
it's like you just walk in there and you just know you're home. Like you can just walk
Yeah.
around freely and
It,
no worries about
yes.
people like pressuring you. What can we find for you today? What can we do for you?
Yes.
You can just be yourself and just
Hmm.
look around, like you say, grab a cup of coffee, talk to some friends.
Yeah. And actually, so Caitlin, who works there and she does their social media, which if you don't follow them, everyone out there follow them because they've got just such fun social media. But she must have grabbed a copy and read it. And I saw that on Goodreads, which I don't know if you've heard of Goodreads, but it's a really cool like app on your phone. It's like Facebook for books, basically, but I'm obsessed with it. You can track your reading and leave reviews and see what your friends are reading and see their reviews. And I saw the other day that she read this and she wrote this really beautiful review. And my friend sent it to me, and I just like started like crying into my phone because I was like, this is so, it's just so cool to see this new people that I kind of know, but like I wasn't like, hey, go buy my book. Like pick up the book and read it and have it mean something to them. And that's sort of the whole point in the first place. So that was a really cool thing that happened recently. But she's also a team member at Warner Books, and yeah, they're just amazing people. So
Love it. Love it.
yeah.
A question that just popped into my mind. Can we expect any sequels? Can we expect any other books coming out soon? Anything in the works?
Yeah. So I am always writing. I really would love to publish one of my novels. I've written a couple, long style fiction stories. And I would really love to do that. I am currently trying to find, an agent, a publishing company to help me get, a big girl published with that. So that's kind of a new process for me. I'm also maybe considering self-publishing because apparently that's what everyone's doing now, but that's pretty intimidating too. So if there's anyone out there that knows about any of that, please feel free to reach out to me and help a girl out. But I do have another poetry collection in the works too, just sort of a soft, slow, as I have new things and new feelings and write them down, I'm sort of adding it to this. Right now, it's a big chaotic Word document of just random things, but yeah, I do hope one day to do another poetry collection and just talk about this new season of life I'm in. And it feels so far from all the things I felt in growing pains, but I think that's what's special about it too, is to be able to look back and be like, wow, this Emily in school was feeling these things, and now I have these new experiences and feelings and people, and it just sort of like marks the seasons of life for me, which is really cool. It's like public journaling, basically. And then I just let
Yeah.
everyone know what's going on in my
Mhm.
brain and in my life and in my
I like
heart,
that.
which,
And
yeah.
I liked how you just made the comparison of like, this is what I was going through at this time. Like, this is what this Emily was
Yeah.
going through now. There, here's where I am. Like, how many times do we look back on an old Facebook post and go like, oh Lord, what was I thinking that
Oh,
day or
it's
something
so
like that?
bad.
Yeah. Like, Lord, what was I doing back then? Like, you look at your high school self and you're like, who was I back then, you know?
I know. And I think I've been afraid to I hadn't looked at this book in a while until the book signing and this thing with you happened, and I was kind of afraid to look at it again because I thought it was going to be like that because all of our old Facebook posts are bad. I'm just going to say it for all of us. You get the memories and you're like, what was I thinking? Why did I think people needed to know the lyrics of this Disney song with no context? Or why did I think they needed to know that I was going to the movies with, my friend tonight? I don't know. But it wasn't like that, thank God. It was
Mhm.
cool to be like, this was that Emily, and I love her, and I'm so proud of her. And she would be so excited to know that she's out of that now. So it's a cool thing. Definitely way cooler than
Mhm.
not as horrifying as looking at old social media posts.
Mhm. Now, I know, like, what poems did you? I'm gonna give you some like characterizations, and I want you to answer like what
Yeah.
poems you felt fit them best. Like, which ones brought you the most joy?
Ooh, the most joy. Let's see. I feel like I need to look at my table of contents if that's allowed. The most joy. I mean, honestly, the homesickness poems do that for me because it reminds me of the people that I love. But I think that the two the two short stories for me have always brought me a lot of peace and joy, a passing resemblance, and upon hearing the name Evelyn, because they're both very, I don't want to say prophetic because it's not, like I'm like, this exact thing is going to happen, but they kind of came out of me dreaming out of a really depressed state. You're in school and it's overwhelming, and there's definitely some really hard and low poems in here, but I feel like those came out of like the Lord being like, hey, like this is hard, life is hard, but I need you to dream a little bit and I need you to hope with me. And so a passing resemblance actually specifically came from my sister was leading a life group at the time, and I like saw their worksheet for the day, and it was this little exercise of like, close your eyes, imagine you meet your future self 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, and what do you see, what do you feel, what do they look like, what would you talk to them about? And I was like, oh, I need to do that. Like, I without question need to do that. So I sat down, I put on some worship music, I closed my eyes, and I just like imagined what it would be like if I came up to my house 50 years from now and looked in and saw the life I was living and the family that I was a part of and created. And it was a really healing thing to be like, wow, life is hard right now, but I actually believe that this could be me one day. And so those two are like they were dreams that I needed to dream right then, because it was kind of dark in school for a minute there. And upon hearing the name Evelyn is like coming out of a desire to be a mom, and I've always wanted to have kids and have that special kind of relationship. And so it was just another time where I was like, let me dream about what it would be like to have this new life, but it's also sort of just about new life too. We were talking about giftings and cultivating life and cultivating connection. And so I feel like it kind of parallels that too, about, what we owe our gifts that we've been given and what we owe the people around us that we're supposed to share those with. So those two always kind of make me dream a little bit and have a little bit of hope for the future.
Mm-hmm. What about the poem that brought out like the most emotion in you, like whether it was good emotion, bad emotion,
I would say probably hydrangeas. Hydrangeas came directly out of an immediate sort of depression episode in college that I had, which I can still recall to this day too. But that was probably one of the most realist emotions I had ever felt at that time. And for it to be sort of a heavier emotion was really overwhelming for me. And honestly, thank God I was where I was at, because I think being, first of all, the English department at Mercier's is amazing. I owe writing to them because they're amazing. But like being in that space where you're with other people who are writing and sharing and having the space to share too, like I was like, wow, I can write about this. Like it like immediately gave me a way to not be stuck in it. Like I had that moment of like I'm stuck in this feeling, and then I was like, oh, I can write. Like I'm just gonna put it on the paper, and it suddenly like felt like outside of me, and like I could look at the feeling more logically and be like, okay, this isn't me. Like this isn't my life. This is just something that's trying to convince me, that things aren't good, or that I shouldn't be here, stuff like that. And so I look back at hydrangea sometimes and I'm like, ooh, that's scary that Emily was feeling those things. Because it's very like, trigger warning. It's kind of, it's a little bit dark. It's about depression. It's about, like suicidal thoughts. And so it is sort of a darker one, but again, like it's crazy to look at it and be like, wow, like I'm so far from that. And that's amazing. And I can thank the Lord for that. And to have that sort of marked on paper is really cool. And I hope that it helps teach people that expression, I think, is really important for really good emotions and really bad emotions, because it kind of lets you look at the feeling outside of you and decide like what's real, what's a lie, what's true, like what is me and what is not me, what's trying to lie to me. And I think I think that writing and expression is a super practical tool to like move through those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about the most, like the one that gives you the most sense of accomplishment?
Ooh, accomplishment. I don't know. All of them. Is that a bad answer? That's a great question. Oh man, I don't know. The most accomplishment. I mean, I think hydrangeas would fall in that too, just because it was the first moment that I felt I could do it when my teacher was like, "This is good." Um, but I've also always loved uh, one of my early poems in here. It's called Sunday, July 11th, 11:31 p.m., which is very specific. But I went through this phase of writing poems where I was like, I'm not going to title them. I'm just going to write the date and the time that I was feeling the thing, which is very artistic and like, of me. But um, because again, it was just like a very real thing that I felt, and I felt like I perfectly expressed it on paper, and I was like, like that's exactly like if I read it today, I'm like, yeah, like that's exactly it, and I felt really proud of it. And it's another one I wrote during class, and um, yeah, I love that one too. I just like it was one of those moments where you're writing and you feel like it's not 100% you. Like I really kind of let uh, the Holy Spirit kind of like decide, like how to express it. And I look back and I'm like, ooh, that doesn't even sound like I wrote it. Like I just think it's good, which is really cool to be able to say, because it's always hard to look at the stuff you do and especially look back and be like, oh, that's still good.
Mhm.
That's one that I feel like every time I read it, I'm like, oh, that's good. I like that. And that's really cool.
Awesome. I have to ask this. You think you could share a poem with us?
I can. Yes, I can. I think I'll do homesickness one because we were talking about it and I love that one and I love my Nana. And anyone who knows me probably knows my Nana because she's that kind of person. She's the world's Nana. So I feel like I need to honor her any chance I get. So
Hmm.
I'm like, let me clear my throat. So this one is called Homesickness One. Jesus is in my Nana's hands. Her fingers, etched with wisdom and work, glide across my head like divine feet on water. Her smile, brimming with light, gold dripping down the corner of her lip, an image that would bring sight to even the blindest man. In her eyes, a sadness resides, yet her iris is freckled with joy. A pain from past years, from bending beneath others, from a childhood positioning her knees atop a beautifully embroidered vent. Every time I look into her eyes, I see a crossing of cypress and gold ichor. Every time I look into her eyes, a blend of gold dust and blood melts from her turned lips into my soft hands. Homesickness.
Love it. Love it. Excellent job. That was a beautiful poem. That was
Thank
truly
you.
inspiring. And I love how all of this is like, that poem is dedicated to your grandmother, because I can tell just from chatting with you today, your grandmother means just as much to you as my grandfather meant to me.
Yeah.
My grandfather is the inspiration behind Buddycast, because I'd say this all the time on the show, he was the guy that would walk up. He was the type of person that would walk up to someone at a party who, not like the star of the party who everyone loves,
Hmm.
but the person sitting in the corner, kind of sitting by themselves, kind of looking at their watch, like 5 more minutes, and then I'll find an excuse to go home or something,
Yeah.
and make them feel like the life of the party.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's amazing. We
Mm,
need that, like we
exactly,
need more of that.
exactly. So he was that character, and that's
That's really
honestly why I
special.
love this show, because it connects
Yeah.
me to everybody. It's a show for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and it's Buddy
awesome.
with a
I love
unique
that.
name.
Yeah.
So now, buddy, I've got
Mhm.
two more questions to ask you to make this an official
Okay.
buddy cast. This is how I put my stamp on my episodes. Number one,
Okay.
please know you're not a guest on this show. You're a buddy.
Woo.
So
Officially a buddy.
exactly. So with that, my buddy Jonas Kane from hashtag Positivity wants to know, in your own words, what does it mean to be someone's buddy?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like buddy is like the purest form of friendship. Like it is your 2 a.m. friend. Like if you call them at 2 a.m., they're picking up, they're showing up, no questions asked. It's very much what we owe each other in relationships. I mean, we're all built for community, we're built for relationship, and it's so essential to life. Like life is essential to relationships, and I feel like we all need good community and those buddies that we can call at 2 a.m. and trust with our highest highs and our lowest lows. So honestly, it's just as simple as showing up for people and being able to celebrate people. Um, without, bitterness or any secondhand, negative feeling, like just being able to show up for people and love doing it. And like you said, like your grandpa who showed up for strangers. Like we need that. That's life changing. Being a
Mhm.
buddy can be life changing. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that was one of the best buddy answers I've heard all so far.
Oh my gosh. Yay.
Hmm.
I can't believe it. That's awesome. Yeah.
I love the part, the 2 a.m. friend. You're absolutely right. Or just that friend you can always
Yeah.
rely on no matter what, no questions asked. Drop everything. We'll be right there.
Yeah.
So the final question I have for you today is what's called the ultimate Buddycast buddy question. You ready for it?
Ooh, I don't know. I think so.
For anyone out there who wants to be a poet, who wants to go into poetry, create their own book one day, what is your advice to them?
I think that the biggest thing, I'm kind of like I said earlier, the biggest thing that I learned doing this was you have to believe in what you're doing and you have to believe in why you're doing it. If you know with full assurance why you're doing the thing you're doing, you can always fall back on that when things get hard. Like not if things get hard, but when things get hard. Because writing is very uh personal, but it's also, an objective thing. Like sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't. Sometimes people want to help you share it, and sometimes people don't. So it can be sort of this roller coaster of like acceptance, rejection, acceptance, rejection. And I feel like the only way to get through that is to know with full confidence like what you're doing and why you're doing it and believe in it. And I just believed wholeheartedly that the Lord wanted me to be vulnerable with the world so that they could be vulnerable with themselves and with others too. And I just think that if you love it and you were gifted with it, then you're supposed to use it. And so just trust that and let him control the rest of it. Let him drive the car. Just get in. Just get in the car.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It's all about trust. There's trust the dream, trust the process,
Yeah.
trust the way. It may look
Yeah,
scary. It
absolutely.
may look like it's got a million speed bumps. It may look like
Yeah.
I have no idea where you're going, but you just got to trust it.
Yeah. Usually if it's uncomfortable, it's the right path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, buddy, thank you. Thank you. Thank you
you.
for being a buddy on Buddycast. Stick around for a minute. We'll chat for a minute
Yeah.
afterwards. But thank you for being buddy number 350 on Buddycast.
Whoa. So
Yep.
many buddies. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Episode 350 on Buddycast. Thank you for sharing one of your poems. Thank you for inspiring us today. For all our viewers out there, we thank you. As you can see, people loved it. So,
Love you, Lisa. Thank you.
mhm. And buddy, I've got two favors to ask you. Number one, you think you could ever write a poem about buddies?
I feel like I could. I'm gonna file that in there and see what we can do with that. Yeah,
If you do, let us know.
I
But
will.
the final favor I have to ask you today is whatever you do today, tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year, promise me you're going to go out and you're going to go be someone's buddy.
Oh, I promise.
Alrighty. For all my buddies out there, this is my buddy, Emily. Please check out this wonderful book, Growing Pains. Emily, where can they find the book?
Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble online, and it's also in Pressed and in Warner Books. So come see me Sunday.
Sounds good. We'll see you Sunday for sure.
Yes.
But for all my buddies out there, please check out Growing Pains. Please reach out to Emily if you're an aspiring poet. You never know what you'll find. I'm your host, Nick Sorensen. Thank you for joining us on everybody's favorite show.
Well, the days are going fast, buddy, we've got to make them last, buddy, before they've all gone past, buddy, tune in to Buddycast. But don't feel none, it will make it, buddy, here on Buddycast.